Hey, Amalia.
Hey, Vijay. So last class we thought we will discuss the other book, right?
Um, yeah, I mean, I've just got both of these up here. I think like the only thing I remember from last time was that I wrote this message afterwards.
Yeah, yeah, I will reply. I've just been I'm going on vacation, right? So I had to kind of was busy at work and trying to finish off stuff. But yeah, I will reply to that with my availability and all. So yeah.
Okay. Um, I guess we can do one of two things. We could wait for a few more people to show up and then do that, like do the other book. Or
Mm.
I guess we could just kind of continue with chapter 5.
We thought we will, yeah. So what happened was last class I showed this book, right?
Mm-hmm.
So basically I was just going through that one of the design questions, and this basically it refers to the um it says that the general design principles apply. So you should first read the first chapter. The first chapter in that book is essentially how would you how would you write a generic scalable web service that caters to basically both mobile traffic and web traffic.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's like the, I mean, forget the specific use cases of a particular application, like the general stuff, like the load balancers, the cache, the database choice. So it's basically different components of a design question. So I mean, it is interesting. It kind of gives you the template that we were referring to. Yeah, this one, right? So I mean, the first chapters are pretty basic. I think yeah, he is just basically if you are just writing a project, a pet project, you would just write everything on a web server, and that basically serves all the traffic. Then you see that as the traffic grows, you want to scale out. Actually, the first thing is you want to vertically scale, basically make your service more powerful. But then that becomes that has a limitation, so that's why we want to scale out. I think the next page, if you go to the next page.
Okay, sure. Mm-hmm.
So he says, yeah, basically, yeah, you have one web service, and it kind of returns both HTML and API traffic. Basically, API responses and HTML responses are coming from the same server. Next page. There's nothing much here. It's basically all the basic stuff. Yeah, once it grows, now you know that the main the CPU intensive, IO intensive, or CPU intensive operations are happening on the server, and the IO is basically, if the first thing that you want to separate out is the database from the service itself. So you want to uh, put the database as a separate module, right? So yeah, yeah, let's go to next. Yeah, here they talk about yeah, where once you decide to move out the database, now you have to, yeah, basically this database choice, right? Give me a moment, Vijay, I'll connect back from a different room.
Okay. Um, while you do that, I just wanted to say hello to everybody else. So hey Sivan, hey Karthik. Do you, and if you're in the middle of connecting, that's okay. But I just wanted to ask, do you all want to review chapter 5 today, or do you want to go through the system design interview questions with Alex Shu? I think that's the book we're looking at right now.
I'm okay either way.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I did not read the chapter 5, unless somebody is ready to speak.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, yeah, no, I was just curious because I wrote on the chat here, like we needed a few things to get done. So I guess we could also just write in, like we're gonna do the system design Alex Shu thing, or I guess we could answer some of these questions first, and then we could like move forward if that makes sense. So we do need to read chapter 5. Some people are going on vacation. Do you all want to have a vacation? And then like for future meetings, if we do want to study the Alex Shu book, do we want to have like a basic agenda that we want to like go through? Like how many chapters do you think we'll read through? And then like what kind of game plan do you want to have? Especially like, let's say, we want to mix in some system design questions too. Maybe we should have that discussion right now.
Yeah, I think we should definitely include, interleave actual design questions between the chapters, because the chapter, like the book goes into great detail. I mean, I don't know how much of that is retaining in our heads, right? I think if you kind of apply it to a actual question, I think that keeps it interesting, also helps us retain better.
So let me ask you, Amelia, are you, and you can speak honestly here, it's all right. But are you kind of like a little bit bored by like just reading the book, the other book? Is anyone else here bored of doing that? I'm just asking.
I'm just starting, so I'm not bored yet. Honestly,
Okay.
chapter 5 is the first one that I actually, so basically, when you have not read things for long, it takes a while to register anything in your brain, right? And the easiest way to do it is to like make pen and paper notes, because that's the easiest way your brain remembers. So
Sure.
I literally did that yesterday for the first 2 pages to get in the groove. So definitely not bored at all, just getting started.
Yeah, but I want you all to speak a little bit more honestly, like, and that's great, and thank you for saying that, because like I think feedback is really important.
Yeah.
We can pretend like we're very studious, but I don't think that's true. Like nobody's always studious all the time. So I am just asking because like if we're bored, then maybe we should change it up. If we are tired, maybe we should have a vacation. Just like, I want to avoid burnout too. That's a real thing in the tech industry anyway. And just kind of like build up the excitement. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you just read the book, because parts of the book are not relevant to, our day job, like for example, replication, right? I'm not on the DDB database team, so that doesn't kind of directly relate to me. So I might read and then not remember any of those. That's the problem I have. I'm not bored. I mean, these stuff are not bored, because I find if you are, an engineer, day in and day out, you see these ideas being applied. So, and so I'm glad that I'm actually putting this effort to kind of knowing more, and yeah, I'm not bored. But said that, I have this we have to solve the problem of keeping it interesting while not getting stressed, right? Because it kind of requires a lot of upfront preparation. You have to read up, kind of research, and kind of publish, so I actually think we can take it a little slow, and kind of go revise more. I think the best way to do that is kind of solve problems, design problems between the chapters. So we know the application of it in the real world, and keep it interesting.
So I'll put some
That's
notes.
actually a little hard, Amulya. The thing is, in school, right, they will teach us a chapter or a concept, and then they'll give us an assignment related to it, so that we can see some application. Yeah, but finding a design question exactly same to just replication, yeah, actually we might be able to.
No, not replication. So basically, people won't ask, how would you replicate database or anything. Like they would just they will ask you a regular use case, and then they might just choose to drill down on that. So you might at that point we should have at least some idea about what are the standard practices around it, so we can speak about it. Most of these things, right, they take time to sink in. So there's a lot of thinking that you have to do after you read. Just don't stop reading and just think and discuss. I think that's when things sink in. So yeah, I mean, to your question, Vijay, is it boring? It's not boring. But I am I have the stress to prepare ahead of time, I think, which is good. Otherwise, I would not prepare. I would not read, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I have no complaints. But are you burnt out? Like you have to drive these. I'm happy to take over after my vacation, like in like 3 weeks or so. But if you feel that you are obliged to come, show up and like kind of lead the discussions, I understand. One of us can take for a week, rotate and do stuff.
No, I don't feel burnt out. I actually feel completely fine. The only reason maybe I might sound tired is just because these meetings make me wake up at 7:30. But yeah, no.
Oh, and also I completely understand. You got a job and you probably don't have a reason to kind of do that at 7:30. It's time to sell, kind of chill out. So
No, that's not true either. That's not true either. So even though I have this job and even though I have the interview questions, like I want to just keep doing that. Like in this day and age, right? Like job security is less there, right? So like at least I want to like always just kind of keep this top of mind, so that way, like even if the worst happens, like I don't need to worry about it because like I am always prepared, right? So for me, and besides, I find beyond that, I actually find this really fascinating. So I don't want to throw it away. So my only thing is that I just want to go by some order. That's the only thing. So like if we're reading a book, I want to like kind of continue with that if that's the game plan, or if we want to change things, then I just want to like have a new agenda, right? Like what would we do? Because I don't want to jump around too much. If we jump around too much, then maybe we lose sight of what we're doing. That's all.
So I think that's what keeps us. I think the book itself, if you're just reading the book, I think not only is it difficult, it's not only is it boring. I mean, boring in the sense that it goes into a lot of details. You don't need to know details to that extent to kind of crack design, basically to get an overview, right?
Sure,
like you anyway have a detailed understanding of actual projects you worked on things that you have not actively worked on. It's okay to understand what's out there and kind of have an overview of what are the pros and cons and when does it make sense to take them without actually going into the details, right? I think that's enough. So that's where we should revise and kind of, especially projects that we have not worked on, like concepts that we have not worked on. Serialization I have not worked on, so that chapter definitely needs revising. And so yeah, I think to keep it interesting, I just say jumping around is probably the right way to actually do it, because some books, this book, right, it does not go into detail. It focuses on giving you a very it kind in a capsule format, right? Easy to consume. So yeah, I mean, this first chapter looks like it's not solving a particular problem, but I think it gives you a template though. What the vertical, like design, when you are designing a problem, when does it make sense to do vertical scaling versus horizontal scaling? Databases, what kind of caching strategies? So a template, instead of going deep into one particular topic.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess let me ask others. Like, so then what do you think? And then Karthik, if you're around.
So my point is, this used to happen to me in the college as well. Exactly what Amelia said, that when they go into the technological details, right? Like in the previous chapters, we went into the details of the implementations and the drawbacks and all that. I honestly used to leave out those and just pray God that those questions don't come up. So
Okay.
I used to focus on the concept. So I agree with Amulya in those terms that, yeah, just understanding the concept and pros and cons is enough for interview, because nobody is going to ask in the question, at least if we are preparing just for the interview, right? That why would you prefer this technology over the other? Most of the companies that we work for, they give you those times during design to figure out, as long as you know the concept. So yeah, I think we can with respect to going over the just the design question, is that our understanding will be a little shallow. To have a little deeper understanding of the concept, the book is the better approach. So I would say going hand in hand. uh, Maybe we can consciously leave out the details of the implementation of the specific, like basically if the book is talking about any tools and anything. But yeah, I would still lean upon on reading the book at the same time and not skipping it altogether.
Wait, so you want to read the first book we're reading and then not skip it? Is that what you're saying?
Not skip it as in?
Um, Wait, what did you say at the end? Could you clarify
At
that?
the end, I said basically I am leaning towards still reading the book for the concepts like replication, right? I would still read what is horizontal scaling, what is vertical scaling, what are the trade-offs, and then any other. Honestly, that's all I had read so far. But yeah, if there is anything more, basically the concepts. But if it goes into implementation details, then I might skip the specific technological implementations and their pros and cons.
So
Got it.
just to clarify, Subha, we are looking at a different book. I think
Yeah.
Vijay's question was, should we keep switching around books like this book and that book, or
Yes.
just focus on one book? I was suggesting that this book kind of gives you a format and a
Yeah.
more shallow perspective, but a complete perspective. Breadth perspective, and the other one is like depth. And it's good to read that in a leisurely manner. But if you kind of have an interview in the horizon, then this gives at least sets you on the right track.
So are we talking about switching the books?
Correct.
Like I'm saying, do it alternatively, like read one chapter that and then come back to the design question, or like whenever, like this chapter 5 is really long, right? It will take at least 2 months for us to, at least one month to kind of completely go through that. If we feel, okay, so, and even that to sink in, we should give some time, right? Like then we can just, go over this. This is small. You can finish it in one chapter in one session. So it's easy to understand and remember also, retain also.
Yeah, for that I agree that if we go by the book and prepare for the interview, then by the time we finish the book, it's almost a year and we will be nowhere close to solving a design question.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes and no. So I think like the thing is here, right? So the book provides a lot of really good exposure to technologies. Like I think most programmers, right, if they go like the basic track, right, like doing just front end or back end, have never heard of, right? And so, it's only like these top engineers, right, at the fan companies or whatever, right, like who kind of know about all these things because like they're the ones who built it. Which I think is that's a lot of really good insight, right? Like you learn about things like protocol buffers or like encryption. Like you see B tables actually being used in application. Those are like interesting things to me, at least I think. I know that sometimes like those things are a little bit too deep for a question that might be like, how do you solve, how do you build your own Facebook or how do you build your own Twitter? So but at the same time, like you get a lot of insight into like what are the standard tools. Like I really hadn't heard of Neo4j, but now that I've seen it, like I appreciate like, more news about it, or when I see it in the LinkedIn feeds or whatever, I actually know what it is now. My brain doesn't like automatically ignore it. Even things like GraphQL, like I actually kind of understand it a lot better, because like I go, oh, okay, yeah, this is what it's actually doing. There's schema, and then, like underneath the hood is this protocol buffer. But I think like, and so for me, right, like if I were to choose something, I would choose based on like the knowledge I have, like the deep knowledge, like not just like going through it shallow. But that said, I know that when you're preparing for an interview, like you need to focus on like certain topics, right? And you don't want to like spend an entire year just reading one book and then still feeling like, oh, well, I have no idea like where I am, right? Like nobody wants to, not even me, right? So I think like in order to avoid that problem, like we should probably just kind of like come up with some kind of game plan, like like maybe, okay, so this month, right? And I do the same thing too, right? Here, I'll share it with you one more time. Like I have, like my month to month and my year goals, right? And so my year goal is like try to be like an SDE engineer, make stuff that's engineering sound. And I put down here that like I was hoping to move up to SWE2 or principal engineer by the end of the year. I'm kind of already there, right? I've already done that with like the new job, right? Because I'll be SWE2. So I was already ahead of that before in like 6 months, but still like I want to keep going, right? Like I don't want to, because like I feel like there are other goals I want to do. So I just put this month to month plan here. And so in June, like how am I doing this? I say, okay, well, I want to study data structures and algorithms and system design. And then I just want to repeat again, do it again.
So are you saying this because you want to come up with an agenda? Like we should have what we want to cover in this month?
Correct. Like just something like some kind of plan, so we can say, all right, this is like how we want to, this is like how long we have, and then how far we want to go with this. Because I agree, we don't want to spend a year on this. Like, I think maybe there should be a time frame.
I was thinking, since we have multiple meetings in a week, maybe we can dedicate one meeting to the book reading and one meeting to the design question book reading.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good idea actually.
And since the design question book is smaller, if I don't know how we came up with the frequency of 2 days, maybe we can, if we want to, finish up the design questions faster, maybe we can add another meeting on a Monday or something, and maybe do 2 design questions and 1 book reading.
Okay.
I think it's important more than I think increasing the frequency. So basically a lot of this, right, we need to read upfront. You should, when you sign up for more frequent classes, you are basically asking that you will absolutely have time to kind of, spend time understanding. And yeah, I mean, if you think that you can scale, then yeah, makes sense. But I think like full-time jobs too is kind of, I'm already stressed out.
Yeah, I know. I say, but even I don't get time. But
we tried this with the DSA class, and I think too many people were getting burned out with too many different meetings. So I try to like make less meetings and then just more like, we could do more homework if you want.
Yeah, homework. Actually, each of these, right, they have a references section, and they're actual papers. They are dense papers. It's not like you can read in one day and come up and talk about it the next day. They kind of take like a week to read. So this first chapter, right, it refers to, I was looking at it, it has a reference to scaling Memcache at Facebook. It's a very good paper. I mean, and it kind of, if you read that now, you know how to.
Is it Redis implementation, Amulya?
They're talking about Memcache. I think it's just a different, it's
similar, right? It must be similar.
Yeah,
Memcache and Redis are similar. Yeah.
Yeah, they're similar. So basically what they're saying is the problem that they solved in that, the solutions that they proposed in that paper are how are you solving the distributed cache, like your service is hosted in different regions, and how are you going to solve this keeping the cache consistent in a distributed environment. That's a difficult problem to solve, right? Like if you have the cache localized in one region, it's easier to achieve the consistency, but like when it is scaled out to a different disparate geographical locations, then it's a difficult problem to solve. So I think that paper is good. If you have the energy, you can go read that and like come. I think that will take like a week for me to read.
Okay.
And they don't actually say. So you go to the caching section, right? Yeah, here. Facebook. Yeah, Facebook scaling memcache at Facebook. Yeah, the 7th one. No, this
This
is
one?
the thing. No, not the one, the previous one. 7th reference, right? Yeah, this is also a good reference, but there's another one. It's not a link, clickable link, but you'll easily find it when you do the Google. But yeah, so even although this book is shallow, it is intended to be shallow. If you're preparing for an interview and like you want to cover the breadth, so you read that. But if you want to do bar raise, then go read the references. So I think, yeah, I agree with Subha that like we should, to keep it interesting, to keep it motivating, that like this is still doable. We should do, this book for one day and the actual book the other day. I think that will also help us sink in the details better in the big book.
Okay. All right. So I wrote down that we're doing one meeting for reading and one meeting for a design question. So we'll alternate. At this time, I think we'll just probably like do 2 meetings a week instead of 3. Unless we really feel like we want a 3rd meeting.
No, I agree with Amulya. I mean, the amount of reading we have to do, 3 might get hectic. So
Okay.
yeah, let's start with 2 and let's see how it goes. We can change in future if we need to.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. All right. So anything else though? Like, so how long do we want to do this? And then what is the end goal? Because I want to make sure we're excited about that.
And I think you will reach the end goal pretty soon because the concepts repeat. And if you kind of read 50% of the chapter, I think like chapters, I think there's I think the real problems are handled in the later section of the book, like what Ramya was saying. If you kind of cover those chapters, we are in a decent state. Like at least we can speak to any design problem, that is a good state to be in, right? After that, we can interview each other like mock interviews instead of paying somebody else. But yeah.
Mhm.
Think we can do after that, if we can even convert this into the data structures and we can do one class data structures and one class system design.
So can you say the goal one more time?
Vijay, if you don't mind, just
Sure.
a quick question. So let's, like they say, right? Let's work backwards. Tell me a hypothetical date. 3 months is your target date to interview? Because based on it, we should tailor this, right?
Correct.
That's how we need to work on, right? Like, because this is going to quickly change based on what is your target date. Excluding the vacations and stuff, right? Let's assume, Amulya, you're back from vacation and the counter is set, and wherever we are, right? Like, what's the tentative end date? End of the year, or you wanna say before end of the year, before Christmas? So, what is the end date?
Actually, I don't. Even if I get a job, right, I would like to keep this going, just to keep myself on track, reading a blog or something and sharing what I learned with others. I mean, that will kind of give me the otherwise I won't put any effort in reading. Like, I have no interest in tech news, okay? Unless there's a meeting that I have to prepare for. So
okay, that's funny. I'm exactly opposite. I'm only interested in tech news. That's the other problem. I'm not interested in the worldly news. Okay.
I try to balance.
That's why you are a required member in this. Yeah, okay.
But no,
I mean, I
Karthik's right.
starve off all your energies, to be honest, right? Like, I read this book and I know the book sort of each by chapter. I know sort of what it's there. But yeah, I always love to listen and different perspective. So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
having
I
said
mean,
that,
thanks to this, I'm more confident of opening my mouth and at work, right? Otherwise, we only know what we already worked on. Everybody knows that in the team. Like, you are not adding any value, right? Um, so
no,
Correct.
yeah,
Correct.
that's
yeah.
my point, right? What I was gonna say is like, it makes sense to do system design parallelly, like you guys suggested. But so here is the caveat, right? But if you were to do completely this book, you'll have to do second pass for sure. I'm telling you, you will want to do it because our memories are not that great. Unless we practice it, it's not going to stick, right? If you had done a real project, it would stick because you would have gone through the pain, right? So you're going to have to go through it again. At that time, like, you'll pass pretty fast. But this book is irrespective. I would say like a Bible, right? Maybe you'll do it many times like me, right? I just like going over it again to make sure that I still remember, right? Yeah, system design. The only thing I think every, let's say designing a YouTube, it's gonna need more time than just one session in a week. The book would be faster than the system design because you would want to talk about pros and cons. You would want to talk about, let's say, if the book follows, okay, we are going to choose NoSQL, Cassandra. Why would you not use DynamoDB? Why would you not use a database called ScyllaDB, which is DynamoDB API compatible and Cassandra API compatible? So there are multiple options in the world, right? Like you would want to talk about pros, cons, why this versus that from operational perspective, or like all the chapters that we spoke about, the first chapter, right? High availability perspective, fault tolerance perspective, partition tolerance, cap theorem, everything comes into play. I think like every chapter, it can get intense. It should get intense, in my opinion, right? If the goal is to, when you walk into the interview, you just don't want to clear the interview, but rather you want to be a strong hire, right? If that's the goal, that's the knowledge you're gonna get by discussing more on those details, right? Different perspectives, views, and things. That's just my thought.
Right. No. That was perfect. Yeah. So, and that gives so what Karthik is saying too is like exactly that last point. Is exactly what I'm striving for, right? I want to not just ace an interview, like I want to feel really good about like what I'm talking about, right? Like I want to be able to say that I know the subject matter, or I know like what these questions are, and it's not just memorized in my head. So if I were to join a job, like I wouldn't feel like, oh my God, like I just, you know, like why am I here? I lied to get here or something like that. No, I would feel confident enough to like be able to actually do the work, right? Like, or whatever work that comes at me, like even if I've never seen it before, because like at least I can say, well, like I've read about this and like I know where to start, and that might be the case sometimes, like when you're doing engineering.
Yeah, but to add to that, Vijay, I think the first question that Karthik asked, but to get to that confidence, are we willing to wait 2 years to get a job? No, right?
So wait. So just so you know, right? I didn't even really start thinking about this stuff until like 4 years ago, right? And then I realized like back then, like, oh wow, like I wish I was actually, improving and studying, because like at that time
Yeah.
I wasn't doing that well. And so I've been working the last 4 years to get to this point.
Wow.
And so I've never really thought like, oh, like this is a waste of time. So I've always wanted something ongoing. That's why I have like this meetup group, right? Like the JavaScript LA and HackBuddy group that I've been running. And I've been doing that year in, year out. And that's helped me to a certain degree. And meeting you guys in Krishna's group was like sort of the evolution of that, because we're now like before I couldn't really talk to a lot of like people in Fang. I didn't really know that many people. But when I met Karthik and all of you like at that group, like I was like, wow, I'm talking to Fang engineers. This is awesome. And so for me, I feel like in being with you all for like a couple months, like I feel like I'm getting closer to that goal, like where, okay, maybe I probably could work at Fang, right? Like if you would ask me this 4 years ago, I probably would have been like, I don't even know like I'd ever, because like when I was 4 years ago, right? Like if I was like, doing, like this stuff, like, I was doing like more like just PHP and or whatever, right? And yeah, like I kind of like talked to some engineers at Fang, and like they wouldn't even really give me the time of day, right? Like, and it was really kind of embarrassing. Like, so I just worked really hard, to get to this point. And so for me, like I don't view it like as like, oh, I'm wasting my years or wasting 2 years. But at the end of the day, right, like too, like we should have a plan, like 3 months. Cause I realize every one of us is different and we all have different like places we want to be like in, down the line. So I just want to, as the leader of the group too, like um I want to make sure everybody is on target to like wherever like they're going. So that way we can maximize like the most of our time together. You know what I mean?
So to my, I was planning to interview. I think now it's like people are like this hiring freezes and all, right? So, of course, and I'm also going on vacation and all. So, I'm looking to interview starting next year, like Jan.
Perfect.
So, and like saw like do some small interviews, and then I know I've not done lead code like in like 6 years, so I should start from binary search. So yeah, all that, I think it will take time. I 1 year is a good time if you have a full-time job and you're like only doing part-time preparation. Like maybe 1 hour a day or something. I think that's the typical prescribed 1 year. This is the, so yeah, I think next year this time, hopefully. Subha, what do you think?
That sounds good. I don't know. I think I agree with Vijay in terms that to crack an interview, it is basically what state you are in at that point. And yes, I agree that like Vijay said, it will take us time to get to that confidence level. So basically what I was saying is keep reading the book to get to a state where we start behaving like the principal engineers, right? That we know the depth and the concepts and pros and cons of everything. But at the same time, fast forward the things that are important just to crack an interview, because yeah, like I said, I don't want to be know everything before I crack an interview. Basically, I personally don't want to wait that long.
Sure.
Yeah. So that is, having said that, I also agree with Amulya that yes, 6 months sounds like a good plan, given the time we have to prepare. At the same time, I've seen people preparing even sooner. But again, I do not know, like, there is this passive preparation and active preparation. I do not know when they started the passive preparation. All I know is that active preparation. And I know even to get to that state, it takes a month or two. So, yeah, having said that, I think, yeah, it's up to a person, Amulya, how much time you are able to dedicate, how much focused you are. And yeah.
Yeah, to your question, we don't have to solve everything today, Vijay. We didn't read anything today. But the thing is, if we want to, are you asking when should we end this? Is that the question that you're trying to answer?
No, never.
I'm not.
Never.
I'm not saying end it, because I would never end my own meetup group, right?
Yeah.
But because I get like tremendous value out of that, like. And I always feel like I'm going to continue to get tremendous value out of that. So I would never end it. And I feel like for this, I would only end it if like we reached a goal and we were like, okay, let's move on to a new goal, right? And then let's form a new plan, right? So we're ending like our plan but then we're still friends and we're still all here to like, help each other. So we can still keep meeting. That's totally fine. We should have a plan, right? Like, what do we want to get done? And it should be motivating so we can say, all right, we're not burnt out or frustrated, or we have no idea where we're going. So 6 months sounds like a good plan to me. Yeah.
They say you should not have a, when you are learning, if you have interview preparation, you should have a goal, right? But if you are learning, they say you should not put a deadline to it, because when you rush things, especially these dense topics, right, they don't sink in if you rush things. So that's that's the thing about technical science, these subjects. Basically, you should take your time to kind of analyze why things are the way they are, and kind of, so that's why I don't want to say by this month I will finish replicate chapter 5 and 6, although that sounds good and it will give us a date when we'll be done with this book. But the question is not to be done with this book, right? The question is being that engineer who has has a whole. So
Can I stop you for a second? Like, so just at Amazon, right? Because you all work there, right? So if you say, oh, my plan is to just keep going forever, do you think your bosses there will like that? I'm just asking, like, as a devil's advocate.
Oh, my boss, yeah, that's why we don't at work. Yeah. I mean, that's why we have this technical debt. We don't do things right and all, right? But it's okay. It works. And that's why we have day jobs. We kind of it never ends, right? The work never ends. But anyway,
right. But the project has a deadline. That's all. That's what I'm saying, right? Like, not like to ask you about like what you do at Amazon, but I'm just saying, like, if you were to say.
Right, we do trade-offs, right? So this is the deadline, so we do trade-offs. So what we want to do, what we want to keep. But learning, I think deep learning happens when you don't do those things, when you don't strategize too much, yeah, I mean, but at the same time, we still should get somewhere. That's why I think having easier, I think this book is one example where, we will have something to show for it, in 2 months or so.
So let me propose this. What if we change course here a little bit and we say that, we want to do one meeting to reading for the deep learning, but we want to also get through Alex Shu's book and make sure we can at least answer, at this time, right? Or within 2 months or 3 months, right? Maximum 6 months, we should be able to answer like most of these questions in this book, like how to design a URL shortener, how to do a Facebook, how to do a chat, how to do a web crawler. Like, those are the core questions we should feel confident about in 6 months. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think that sounds good. But even for this book, right, we should not first blindly read. We should try to solve the problem before, we can just take turns, like the rate limiter, right? Don't read the book, just solve it the way you would without preparation, and then go back to look at the solution. I think that's how you will understand where the gaps are better. We can kind of take turns.
Okay, all right, I like that. So we'll try doing some of the questions on our own or as a group.
We can do it in the meeting also, like when whoever is ready, that's also kind of helps us get over the fear of talking when we don't know much.
Yeah. Okay, so I wrote that down too. So I'm gonna
I'll tell you something, right, Amulya, that fear thing, right? I'll tell you. This is what I have learned over years, right? You dazzle with your brilliance and baffle with your bullshit. People will not. A lot of people, they don't know. If you're confident and you say things, sometimes they have no idea. They're like, oh yeah. They'll shake your head. It's just the confidence is a state of mind, to be honest, right? Sometimes sometimes you fake it to make it, right? Sometimes you don't know, but still, if you're confident enough from the foundational perspective, you can somehow bullshit it. right? Without actually knowing it, you're correct. 70% you're there, right?
Yeah.
So, and
And
I'm glad that you said few things which I really I'm glad that it has instilled some confidence in you to go talk to your team itself after reading this book, right? Which is a nice thing, right?
Yeah.
That's why this book is what it is. Yeah.
yeah, agree. At the same time, Amulya, I would say to get the confidence in interview. So basically, interview is like when somebody asks you, it's not about just coding and design, right? They also ask you behavioral questions. It is very hard to keep thinking, what is the best answer to that situation at that point. So yeah, preparation, we always prepare at the same time to get the confidence and, get those strings working in those stress moment. I would say interviewing is the best way to practice. uh, so what I did during my first job was uh, I had to get into this group of interviewing, and I was little lost at that point, little embarrassed to say that, but I was. So I had started interviewing without preparations. And there was a time where I literally interviewed for one of the companies. The engineer came, he asked me to implement a hash map. I had no clue, writing that. It is a typical interview problem, but I had not prepared. I was clueless. That guy literally dictated me the answer in the interview. so, so, so that is
But
the
did he get
level
the
of.
job? That's the question. Did he get the job?
I did not, but after doing such exercises, man, I had interviewed like crazy, and like I was preparing at the same time, but I did not wait for my preparation to get over. The only good thing I did is I kept my dream companies for the end. So when I went for the dream company, I got all the offers.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's actually so my experience is like I interviewed after 18 years, right? Literally after 18 years and being in a company. And I didn't even know what the market was, right? Like in enterprise world, it's a little different. If it was integration middleware, I would like, I don't ever have to read. Like I'll just walk in, I can talk whatever I have to talk. But generally, so Amazon, when the interview came, phone screen was okay, but like behavior, I was like literally, I didn't know what to go about, right? In fact, as a matter of fact, I told my wife the day of my interview, maybe I should just cancel this, like because the whole night
Yeah.
I just didn't sleep because of anxiety, right? She's like,
Yes.
don't. This is exact what she said, right? Don't be such a pussy. Just go attend. If you don't clear, you don't clear. That's all. What's the big deal? It's not the end of the world. Just go. Don't be
Yeah.
always underrate yourself. Don't always like, because I tend to have that pattern, right? Like, oh, I think everywhere the world is like, oh, everyone is super smart, super smart. So I wrote like, for behavior, I started writing maybe 2 weeks before the actual loop, 2 or maybe even 3, I think. I wrote 50 pages of 50 literally papers, handwritten, both sides of my experiences, right? I wrote for all the LPs.
Wow.
First cut, right? 50 pages. Then, I mean, it could even be, it's literally like garbage, right? You just, whatever comes into your mind, no grammatical thing, just put the information down. I distilled it down right before the interview, 3 days before, like I kept iterating. I distilled it down to 15 pages, right? 15 pages, one side, of course, now, right? And then I picked and made the language crisp, added more data, enough data. I think that helped give me that confidence. So I always had 2 or 3 scenarios to talk about for every situation, behavior that they would throw.
Mhm.
Also, other thing I did is like I had a Raspberry Pi at home, right? I had built like some kind of a Raspberry Pi 16-node cluster. So I ran some crawling on it to go fetch all the behavior in the market, right? Every site, and constantly it was gripping. So
Oh,
I
nice.
narrowed down like 100 behavior questions, sort of, mostly being asked. So I prepared in line to that. So the point that I'm trying to make is like, it's all about preparation. It's all about some work being done, right? So there's no reason that we are any inferior to anyone. We have pretty much same experience. We should be able to crack it, right? I don't know myself about the principal engineer path now. Like it's tough, right? Any company, you don't go into walk into principal engineer till you handle ops. Especially my profile, because mine has been mostly on the consulting side. So it's kind of tough, right? At least SD6 is a minimum thing that I should be on, right? If at all I'm switching.
Yeah, it's a good goal. That's what mine is, right? Like, so I reached ST2, but like I would like to, go to principal next year, right? So for me, a year is a good enough time frame for that. Or like 2 years. I'm okay like with taking time. But the other thing is that like for me, I always kind of just, say, okay, here's what I want to achieve. And then like you, Karthik, right? I know about those techniques too, right? Like if I want to find like, the best information out there, I'll write a crawler too, and then like I'll go and find all of the, the information about that particular topic.
Actually, yeah, to be honest, that was probably a dumb way to do it, right? Like I realized later, more resources are there. You just had to pay 30 or 40 bucks a month or two to where curated list of behavior questions are already there in a lot of sites, right? You just
Well,
had to
there's a
pay,
lot
but
of ways you can
I
do
didn't
it.
have to go through that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a lot of ways.
yeah. So yeah, I was just stupid enough to do it. Like people used to do mock interviews with people. I didn't do it. All those things. Like somehow I just didn't. And I was lucky enough somehow to crack it. I would say maybe I was lucky. But yeah. So yeah, different
I think
techniques.
Amazon
Definitely.
bar
But
is.
there's a lot of resources out there.
I think I mean
Yeah, go
I
ahead,
feel like Amazon interviews are actually I don't think they're on the same par as like a Google or I think
exactly. It's a less tech bar. Yeah.
yeah.
You
Yeah,
think
it is.
so? I felt
it-
it was the same. I had interviewed for all of them.
Oh yeah, I mean
Um,
my Google experience kind of I interviewed like 5 years ago. Oh my God, I had trouble understanding the question. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I think it depends case to case, Amulya. So for me, the Google interview questions were simpler than the Amazon. Like I said, right, my Amazon interview as an L4 new grad, it was all graph, trees, try. Google was
those
linked.
questions get asked for L4s only, L5. But anyway, yeah, I think personally, like what I have the same like S6, like what Karthik was saying, right? The SD6 is obviously our next step. It's easier to get anywhere else other than Amazon, getting promoted to Amazon. So
Actually, so think of it this way. So I'll give you a different paradigm shift, right? Like, and actually, it's better. Why I say you have different teams in Amazon. There is no shortage of requirement in Amazon, right? Reach out to the hiring manager. It's like free interviews. Attend, gauge yourself where you are. I haven't done it yet, but you can silently reach out to the hiring manager. Don't apply for any job because the minute you apply, the email gets bounced to your hiring manager, right? Reach out to the hiring manager. They do informal loops, just tech loops, not even behavior, just a tech loop. And you attend, see where you are, right? Even for L6, you can do that. You know that, right?
oh, so
No,
you
different
internally
teams.
you cannot jump levels. Internal transfer will be
Yeah,
L5.
you can't jump levels, but like at least strong
Yeah.
L5
Mock
constantly you can, mock. It's like a mock. I use Amazon itself as a mock springboard. Who's gonna know? Nobody's gonna know.
Yeah, and also like small startups and all that, right? Basically, the thing is keep interviewing, but keep your dream company to the end.
Yeah, exactly. Like for me, I always say Google is the dream company. So like I spend a lot of time researching that outside of all this. But like I'm fine if I never get there, right? Like like at
you
least
you
try.
can get there. The only thing is Google. The algos are never the same. They don't
That's
the same
okay.
algos as on the internet. But second thing, the new change that's coming in Google, one of my buddy saying is like the hiring is they don't want to for senior roles. They don't want to do ask algo anymore. The reason is algo probably what they have realized is not a true reference for senior engineers because there are a lot of senior engineers out there who don't do well in algos, but they do exceptionally well at jobs. That's their internal research. So my friend is working in one of the HR teams. He's like doing some research on it. So he mentioned that that's the new change that they're going to try to bring. It's going to be more on the leadership kind of a thing, right? Like they call it googliness, right? It's going to move different directions. Yeah. Hopefully, soon.
Right. But let me explain to you why I picked that, just so you all understand. Like, I think it's not for me so much like I want to just work only at that company. I just really appreciate their mindset because like I follow a lot of them anyway on LinkedIn, and they are so, I mean, like if you eventually get to meet some of these people, they're very, very good at like solving problems. Like I have never seen people who were that good. Um, you know, I took some screenshots yesterday, actually. There was a guy that I follow, his name's Lee McKeeman. Yeah. So he just randomly, like he was late up last night, he was I guess what was he doing? Let's see here. Show, this guy's mad because he's always posting. But let me see, maybe I have it right here. Okay, so yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
interesting. He forged his early career in Amazon. He was SDM. Then he was
Mhm.
unhappy, moved to an IC. So it kind of feels like me. I was unhappy as SDM, boring and not so thought like I was not like, making any impacts or like being useful in any way. So that's why I moved to IC. So yeah, I do follow him. He's funny
Yeah,
too at times.
he's really good because so yesterday I was looking at this. Somebody posted a problem from Code Wars and it looked kind of simple. It was like just something about rolling a dice, but like Lee like really tore into it. Like he was just like, like so this solution that the person had presented had a switch statement and had like some comparisons in here. And he was just like, so when we were dealing with 5 values, we don't want to be super inefficient, but at the same time, log n and log n don't vary that much. So what can we do about this most clearly? He says it looks better if we start with sorting you know, your code. And then he talked about like, if you know that the code is sorted, right, then you don't have to make these comparisons. Then he also talked about, what else can we do with the first three numbers? They can either be zeros or ones or twos. But he was just kind of like talking about like all these different strategies, like maybe using base 6. And I was just like, wow, this is amazing. It's nice to see this kind of thought process because you don't really see it, day to day. Like when I talk to my engineers or whatever, right? Like they're not deeply thinking about like, the math or whatever, like, they're just kind of like writing switch statements. And I've seen the switch statements so many times in my code base that I'm just like, and we all hate it too because business logic gets really ugly over time. Like, okay, if this, then do this. If this, then do this. And we're trying to get away from this pattern. And so this guy was like breaking it up really, really quick. And like somebody asked him, why does he hate Switch? And he came up with all these great. I'll share this thread with you because I really feel like it was really, really insightful. And so for me, like I want that for me, right? Like I want to be able to think like that. Like, just I want to be able to, look at a problem and like efficiently work it out, rather than just, use like the standard, like tutorial stuff that you'll see. Or because some people would be happy with the solution that they just see from Code Wars or wherever this guy got it from. But he just tore into it and he came up with a better one, like on the fly, which was really great. It was great to see him in action.
Yeah. Okay. Can you post that? Maybe I'll check it out. But I think we are over time, right? So
Yeah. But we came with an agenda, which I think is fine. So I'll reiterate this agenda, and then I think let's try to plan for it. So I've posted that link to the chat, and then
I don't see
here's
it in the chat.
the WhatsApp chat.
Oh, the WhatsApp chat. Okay. So I will not be able to attend for the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
After that, I'll come. So please don't do too much. So yeah, but yeah, I wish you hope that you keep the enthuse going. Yeah, I mean we bring, so yeah, Vijay, so I think that for everyone, we get what you put in this, right? That's
Right.
that's what I really believe. So if you think it is not going great, like if you are not learning anything, it's totally honest to kind of take it to the next level. And I intend to do that. I think it's also trains us to be good teachers. which I think we will be aged out of software, then I want to be a teacher or something. So yeah, I think this is also teacher training program. So yeah, I want to keep it going, and yeah, I will bring my enthusiasm as long as I'm in the software thing.
Yeah,
One
and
more thing to that,
Mhm.
Amulya. Also, you do get what you put in, as well as how you present it.
Yeah.
yeah,
Recently, I'm figuring out I'm working like a donkey, but not able to present it well.
Right.
So-
yeah. So just to keep us on track, right? So we're gonna have enthusiasm. We're gonna do well. I think we're in a good place. I think that some of us do need vacation time, so let's just plan for that a little bit. What I'd ask then is just next 2 weeks, right? We'll slow down a bit. We could meet if we want, but I think what we should also do is just reassess. So take some time too to think about what's your long-term goal and what do you really want to get done. And I think like we have like a small plan here, so I'll share that as well. And that plan is 6 months. Somewhere in the next 6 months, we want to just get better at system design. I think that's the main goal. So we're going to focus on that. The way we'll focus on it is basically just through one meeting for reading, like a dry text, and then the other is to like practice like system design questions, and then maybe doing some homework. And so the homework part, I think we need to think out a little bit more because we didn't really talk about it. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Read up that Facebook paper, right? Scaling Memcache. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna do that whenever I have time on the flight and all. So yeah. We can discuss when we meet again, like whenever you guys meet, and I'll meet you guys, and I'll probably discuss that paper.
yeah. So let's just continue to keep the conversations in the chat. Take some time, everybody here. Take some time to just decompress a little bit. Maybe read if you want, and then think about like a long-term goal. So I'm just putting 6 months January out there, and then we can still talk. We can still meet up. I'm free pretty much like any day if you want to like message me. But like, I would just say like by the time we do really meet for real again, like 2 weeks from now, let's come in with full enthusiasm and ready to like work towards that goal, the 6 months plan.
Sure. I have one addition. When we are reading the book, maybe rather than aiming for chapters, we should allocate sections. Looking at can we do like 2 or 3 sections by next week? I think that's a more granular and achievable goal.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe write that in the chat as well. Just
Sure.
we can other people hear it.
Yeah, I think we can maintain that calendar and kind of put the agenda, right? At least for the next 1 week, because we'll have the visibility what we're gonna do. I mean, after this 2 weeks or whenever, right? Like, how can we do that? Is there a how can we add the agenda details in each event?
Maybe through Notion.
Yeah, Notion. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think we
Yeah,
have
and
a calendar thing there, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Good idea.
just add like a small calendar template and then just we can write that together. I think like keep it high level. Don't do too many like deep details or for now until like everybody is kind of on board with the same thing. So I want us to all be working toward it.
Sounds good. So will you I can create that Notion link and share in the WhatsApp the chapter, the calendar page. So so next I mean when we meet next week, what's the agenda? So we can decide on the first section on the data replication.
So yeah, so basically I'd say for now, right, like continue reading like both books. Like, so read the main book, the data structures or designing data intensive applications book. But then, like if you want to also start reading Alex Shu, read that as well. And then that can be just kind of like the main thing that we keep going. But at the same time, like also just beyond that, like start thinking about like what else do you want to get? Maybe so read some of these lead code forums, right? Figure out like what people do to study for system design. Like I was asking Karthik the other day, should I go join Interview Kickstart? He was like, you don't need to. It's lots of money. You're already doing everything that you need to do to prepare. But like, I was just kind of like, I see this ad all the time, like in my feed. And so it's like, oh, I wonder if this is worth it. Right.
So, yeah, that's a decision which is purely based on the data, right? One of my who used to work with me in the previous company, he used to say the next to me. He joined Amazon as a SDM recently, right? So he went to Interview Kickstart. So I asked him what does they cover completely. You know, the first thing they covered is this book. Okay. I'll tell you, this book was covered, and they didn't go to the depths, right? They just skimmed through each chapter. They just quickly went over. Probably they did some algorithms. It was also very fast, which is like, you know, already it's a video. It's not like somebody's teaching and stuff. So they just went at a high level, although he didn't need to, right? Like to write algos as SEM, but they went that. This book was used as a Bible for the training, right? And then exactly what the Alex use book does, right? And that pattern is not just Alex use concept, right? It's been there forever in the educative.io, grogging the system design and few other sites, right? So that's the same concept. They've gone through all these things like Pastebin, YouTube, and all this design. And just for this content, yeah, they bring the structure. They because you. So it's by the way, it's $10,000. Okay, I don't think it does enough justice. It only does justice for people who are not like persistent, who are not motivated. Pay that money so that like you're forced to go into that structure and like learn. If we have created our own structure which is consistent and going in a path in our own pace, I think we should just stop doing this, because that is going to be crammed into it, like 4 hours, 5 hours, like, you know, weekly, twice and stuff like that. It's not going to be helpful. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think, if you do that route, even though you get the job, you will still struggle in the
actual work.
Job, right?
Yeah, that's my point. That was what I was trying to say to you like earlier too, right? Like, so I don't have a problem with doing this like forever, right? Like so for me, like my best way of learning is learning at my own pace. Like I don't like accelerated paces where people say, oh, you have 3 months or 6 months to do this. But like, I get that people have goals and we need to like move towards it. So, but my thing is, right, if we rush to just get this done, I can guarantee you all, you're gonna, like, for myself at least, we're gonna end up with shallow knowledge and it's not going to feel good. And we're gonna end up spending more money because we'll be like, oh, well, we didn't really solve the problem. But if we have like a really good plan and a really good agenda and we just keep hitting that, then you're gonna build up towards this confidence level that is unshakable, where, you know, you haven't just crammed stuff in your head. If somebody asks you a question, you can definitely explain it and you'll feel good and you'll feel like you can just kind of like work into that job or whatever, right? So yeah, I think just think about everything we've talked about today.
Yeah, I think calendar is a good idea. I'll have to drop Vijay. So calendar is a good idea. And we should also schedule a week in a month to revise. And the revision topics can be they can basically come up with what they want revision on, right? If they're not comfortable in a particular chapter, then we can go the notes in that chapter and then kind of revisit that. We can reserve maybe a week for that.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, perfect.
I'll see you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Later.
So the agenda for the next class is the chapter 5, or are we doing the this first chapter, the first chapter in Alex? So we'll keep the first day, Wednesday, for the DDIA, and the second Friday, the Friday for the Alex book. Does that sound good?
I'm good with that. So we'll do chapter 5 when we return. And then we'll also do one question, but continue to talk in the chat. And, you know, like I can have a separate call if you want, like if you just want to just discuss this out a little bit more.
Right. You guys can meet. I mean, I will not be able to meet, but it's up to you guys whether you want to meet or not. Okay, then I'll be chat over WhatsApp. Okay.
Okay. All right. See you all.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
See you. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.